Hey guys, Savage Joy here with Real Progressives. I do still have Mr. John-MichaelWilliams there, who I adore and I've known on Facebook for over a year. And tonight we're going to be discussing, we actually had this planned for a few weeks. We didn't know Kamala Harris was going to be announcing today. So coincidentally, she announced today. But this show is going to be about her past with for-profit prisons and making profit off of incarcerating Black and brown people and what it's done to the people in California. So thank you so much for joining us tonight, John-Michael. Sorry about all the chaos trying to get live.
No, that's totally fine. Thank you for having me. Like, as you know, I've been our inside joke is that I've been wanting to come on your show. And so I'm really honored that I'm finally fulfilling my dream and I'm able to sit and talk with you.
Oh, you're so sweet. Yeah, I know. I was like, I will get you on. Damn it.
I've been wanting for a while now. And I'm just every once in a while, I'll throw out a little snarky comment and I'm just just kidding. But I'm really, no, really, I want to come on your show. So thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hell yeah. So John-Michael is actually going to be taking on Kamala's seat on, well, pending she doesn't win presidency, which please no. So please no.
God, no.
So if that's the case and she stays in her position, he will be primarying her in 2022. So first off, you are in California. So if you guys are curious beyond this show, what, how people feel about Kamala Harris, ask people in California. Trust me.
Yup.
Ask them. Not a lot of fans, from those I've met. So John-Michael, why don't you explain why you are primarying her?
Yeah, so to give you a little bit of backstory on how I first heard about Miss Harris or Senator Harris, I remember when she first became Attorney General. I want to say that was in 2013. I could be mistaken. When she first became Attorney General. And then I started kind of doing my research into her. And there is a lengthy history of Senator Harris basically moving into a new job and then immediately within a few years moving up to the next job. And so reason number one is that I personally don't believe that if you're serving in a part of a term, like a 6-year term, like for senator, I don't feel that you should be running for president because your constituents, the people that you represent, inherently suffer. You're going to be traveling to 50 different states, hopefully, unless you're Hillary, you're going to travel to all 50 states at one point or another during the presidential campaign. And so from my perspective, it's a disservice to your constituents. And so that was reason number one, because they've been pushing for Kamala. I remember articles back in 2013 saying that she was the next Barack Obama, the female Barack Obama. Mainstream media has been pushing her for a long time. And we're finally coming to that fulfillment of seeing what it's going to be like this year since she's now running. Also, another reason why I chose to run was because I don't have any presidential ambitions. I don't have any ambition other than to serve one term. I think that what we have lost touch with in American politics is that people have forgotten that our founding fathers did not intend public service to be a career. They envisioned citizen legislators, people who went to Washington, made the laws that needed to be changed in their hometown, and then went back home and saw those laws get put into place and listened with their constituents, and then did the same thing over again later. They did not intend for people to serve 30 years.
Right.
And continue to see a revolving door into the next higher opportunity. And so, I could talk all day about why I'm challenging Kamala, but I know that you have some other questions. So,
Where Jimmy, our teammate, who's our graphic artist, who's freaking amazing, she wants to know what part of Cali you live in.
So I'm actually like in the very middle of the state, and I did forget to say, everyone, I have to apologize because I have a cold that I've had for like a week. So I know if you watch my normal, like on my personal channel live streams, I'm a lot more cheery and a lot more like yes. But I'm in the central part of California, so I live in Visalia, California. It's about 45 minutes south of Fresno, about 2.5, give or take, hours north of LA. And so we're kind of in that neglected part of the state. I doubt that Kamala Harris has ever even been to Visalia. I know that she has a rep that's stationed in Fresno because I've seen that gentleman at several different events. But I mean, California is a big state, but at some point, you need to go to all of the places that you're representing. And that's another reason why we're challenging her. I think that she has not, I don't think she's visited all 58 counties in California. We're going to be visiting all 58 counties. We are putting into place plans to go to every single county, not only during the campaign, but during the if we are lucky enough to serve the people of California, we're going to also continue to do that on listening tours. Being a senator should be the full-time job. And when you lose sight of that and you're doing other things like selling books or running for president, you're not doing what you were elected to do, I think. So.
Now, I apologize if I'm saying your name wrong. Where'd that comment go? Kari King. Okay, so a lot of people are talking about this today. That when you drop a lot of receipts on her, abhorrent past, people are saying that people can change. Now, she has never acknowledged the pain she has caused people. She has never apologized for the pain she has caused people, and she has never implemented any rules to change things from doing it again. So in your opinion, do you think she can change?
I mean, I think everyone is capable of changing. For example, do I think Tulsi Gabbard or Gabbard, I'm not sure how you say the last name there. Do I think Tulsi still feels the same way that she did in 2006 or 3 or whatever it was? I mean, like, I'll remind you, as a gay American, when I did a high school project, and I remember I went around and asked everyone if they would support same-sex marriage at that time. This is in 2006. I think I had maybe 25% of the people say yes. Now, I live in a small town, conservative town, so that could be a reflection of our demographics, but I feel like that would still be pretty close to America as a whole. I think that that embracing of equality for LGBT Americans really didn't come until the Supreme Court, decided in Hollingsworth versus Connecticut, I think it is, that we had the right to marry. And that's when kind of the floodgates opened, because that was the final say. So back to your original question, do I think that people can change? Yeah, I don't think Tulsi feels that way anymore at all. And that was actually what Harvey Milk talked about in his recordings. Harvey Milk said, hey, if we're out and we're proud and they know who we are and they know that the people they're saying these things about are one of their friends or their family or brother or sister, then they won't say those things anymore. And I think that happened with Tulsi. Now, as far as Kamala, I will say this. I don't see her taking, she's I haven't seen her taking the lead on any, criminal justice reform. I mean, we have a huge issue with police accountability right now, and I'd like to tell you a little bit more about what we're thinking as far as that goes. But I would really love to see, the top cop Kamala Harris get involved with reaching out and being that adult at the table, not to demean anybody, but between Black Lives Matters and the various local police unions and police departments. Why is she not leading on that? I mean, I saw a bill to make lynching a federal hate crime, and I kind of was like, that wasn't already one. I mean, like, you took the low-hanging fruit, is my point. You took the one that was really easy, that no one's going to oppose, and then you can say that you made that happen, but it should have been happened 60 years ago. I guess long answer to your short question, has Kamala changed? No, evidently not, because she has not ever, I just saw, in fact, today that her campaign is going to be built around her record as a prosecutor. That's a record of blood on her hands. That's a record of a lot of families being torn apart. That's a record of a lot of people unhappy on both sides. Don't get me wrong, there's Republicans here in California that think she went too far with some of this stuff, like jailing parents for truancy. I mean, what did Maya Angelou say? When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. And until she shows me that she's any different, and I mean with solid, concrete proposals and solid policy bills that she's working on, then I have no choice but to assume that that is still who she is because she wants us to think that, right? So.
Sure. And, a couple months ago, Bernard Sanders came out with a and cash bail bill, and she hasn't signed it. So why? Because we all know, anyone who with any kind of brains knows that people of color are the ones who get affected by cash bail. So why wouldn't she sign that? Like, these are your chances. You're being given chances.
Free chances.
Oh.
Bernie's giving them to you, left and right.
Yeah. This old white Jewish man is giving you chances. Come on now. So, and speaking of that, he was talking today about, how he marched with, Martin Luther King Jr. on Washington and how he was arrested for civil rights, things like this. And then she announced her presidency on Today. Is that an opportunist move, or is that, like, as a person of color, do you take offense to that?
Well, let's just make something very clear. If Bernie Sanders posted a picture of him with Martin Luther King today, the media would tear him apart. They would hang him from a cross, they would set him on fire, and they would never let us hear the end about how Bernie Sanders used Martin Luther King Jr. Day to co-opt, the day in disrespect. We would never hear the end of it. So that's number one. Let's be real honest, and we have to do this early because last time I didn't catch on until how unfair the media was being until like Hillary had already won, right? And I was like, well, I guess I have to vote for the demon, and that's what my mindset was. But I didn't catch on as to what was going on until it was too late. So we absolutely, and I think you do a great job of that. I know there's a lot of people on Twitter, Sema Hernandez, there's a lot of people who do a great job of shutting it down. David Hildebrand, Silly Rabbit, all of those people are really good at spreading the right information. So that's number one. But as far as, is Kamala an opportunist? I mean, again, this woman started as a junior, I think, attorney at the city of San Francisco in like one of the departments. She rose to become like the attorney for the mayor. I'll let you put two and two together on that, but he got divorced shortly after, and they began dating shortly after. Not trying to say that's, I'm just letting the facts be known. That's what happened. Then she became, DA of San Francisco. Then, I mean, we see this trajectory with her, and to me, it's not a healthy trajectory. It's not like she's like Bernard, as you would say, where she was the mayor of Burlington, and then she became a congressman, and then she sought a Senate seat. No, there has been a straight trajectory, and it's been way too quick. And again, I can show you articles from 2013 that were saying that this is the next Barack Obama, the female Barack Obama. So she's only been helped by the media along this path, and that's what they're pushing for. And you called it, Silly Rabbits called it, but she's going to take any opportunity she can to try to sell Hillary 2.0, and that's just where I think. So
yeah, she met with her, so there's a good indication. John Michael, can you move your like camera down or like something like that? Your head's getting a little cut off.
Oh, that's much better. Why didn't I turn it to the side earlier? Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. I didn't know I could flip it. I put my thing down, flip it, and reverse it. Sorry. Oh.
So as far as today, you're right. I know there was rumor of her announcing, but I feel like doing it on Today, it's like, oh man.
It's really disrespectful to Shirley Chisholm, who was the first woman to run for the presidency. And she was from New York. For those of you who don't know, she's a New York congresswoman. She served, I think, 8 terms. But for all these people going around saying that this is the first Black woman that's running for president, it's like, first of all, let me stop you right there. Shirley Chisholm ran under the Democratic nomination, and I don't think she got any pledged delegates or anything, but she definitely had them worried because she was not a corporate candidate. She had them worried because she was not going to be, her phrasing, her catchphrase was unbossed. And Viola Davis is actually producing a movie about her, and it should be coming out pretty soon.
Yes.
So first of all,
I can't wait.
Kamala's not the first, okay? She's not the first Black woman to run for president. Second of all, you know, I mean, there's just so much that's problematic with the way that she went about this you know, co-opting this day. You know, I could have posted about how, you know, me and my dad used to always read to me when I was, you know, 3, 4 years old. I was reading at like 3 or 4. But one year or 1 month, he got me a set of books, and it was all of the African American heroes in the country, right? So it was like Jackie Robinson, Martin Luther King, Rosa Parks, W. Du Bois, you know, Thurgood Marshall, etc. So I had this set, and the one I always used to read was Martin Luther King, because that's the tragic one, right? Even my kindergartners know Martin Luther King is dead. Someone shot him and killed him. My kindergartners that I substitute for know that, right? And so I could have posted all that, right? I could have made it all about me and how, you know, but it's like, have some class, like understand that we are not done. If you think that you can rest your laurels on Martin Luther King Jr., you didn't get his message correctly. The dream has to be carried on with us. We have to continue to carry that dream. And that's why you will hear the phrase asked sometimes, is the dream still alive? Are we still doing our part? And I think you're a great person. Bernie's a great person. There are some people who are still carrying it. Is Kamala one? No. She doesn't even know the first thing about what he was saying in those words, because she's led a life of privilege and enforced the laws that oppress Black and brown people. So she doesn't know anything what that dream looks like, because her dream is a completely different one. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I think the worst part that people don't understand is they say Kamala cop and stuff. Okay, yeah, I get that. But she made profit by doing it. There's nothing worse than that. It's literally legalized slave labor. That's what it is. Making money off of people being incarcerated. Now, the interesting thing is she's coming out with posts now like legalize cannabis and stuff, and it's like, are you going to give all the money back you got from incarcerating people for having cannabis on them? Because now she's campaigning for president, so now she's posting these things.
Well, it reminds me a lot of Kristen, what's her name? Kristen Gillibrand. I like to call her Kristen Jellybean, because that's what Peter Douche calls her. But it reminds me of her when she became a senator from New York. All of a sudden, I mean, you can do the research. She was pro Second Amendment. She was one of the "you're never going to take my guns over my dead body" crew. And then she became, you know, a little bit more. Now she's one of the main ones pushing for gun reform. She was also very, very much like Tulsi, adamantly opposed to, you know, LGBT rights. Then when she became senator, you know, her giveaway from it was, well, I became the senator from New York, and so I had to take into account everyone's feelings, and New York is overwhelmingly in support of those things. And so I get that. I mean, I get advocating for your constituents, but at some point or another, you have to, in my opinion, you have to step down and say, you know what, I don't want to be the senator from New York anymore, because I don't agree with the positions that I'm having to take to represent my constituents. So I'm going to run for, you know, a House seat again, where my district, you know, I mean, I guess the point I'm trying to make here is that we have far too many people that are putting their morals and their character ahead of their personal ambition, and it's destroying the country. That's why we keep getting these shitty candidates like Beto O'Rourke. Sema Hernandez was by far the best choice for that, and I'm happy to announce that I've already endorsed Sema for U.S. Senate, and I'll be going back to Texas. That was my adopted home for 5 years. I'm going to be going back out there to support her, and
Awesome.
and get more traction for her, and do what I can from California. But it's just, you know, we have such a lack of people who are truly doing it because they want to be a public servant. I mean, we've seen the reports of these people who went into the House with nothing. They come out at the other end in 20 years in the Senate, and they're millionaires. How does that make any sense at all? You know, there's definitely something stinks in the air, and there's lots of things that I know that Sema and I have talked about as far as government corruption. A lobbying ban, you know, would be great, 7 years minimum. There's lots of things that we can do to change it, and Kamala's not going to change those things because she has profited from them in the past. Why would she change the game that she's profited from?
Right.
Yeah. So.
Well, and I think you know, the interesting thing that we're seeing, and this is nothing new, it's 2016 all over again, but when we present facts and we show receipts, look, here's a copy of the bill, here's a copy of how much she made doing this, and this, Shut up, Bernie bro. Okay, no, can you acknowledge the fact that I just gave you proof that she did abhorrent things? So we're seeing this again, and it's frustrating the hell out of me. So I can imagine, like, as a man of color and as someone who's going to be running against her, what is that like for you? Because I've seen people come at you. I've seen that, like,
Yeah.
whatever, it's like, listen to what he's saying. He's giving you proof.
Yeah. So far we have been I mean, like little old me with 900 followers on Twitter that didn't really use Twitter until, I mean, we had one for our campaign, but we really didn't use it for because I guess we didn't really understand how to utilize it. And now that I've taken the time to actually like get on there more and actually post things with my own thoughts and figured that out. Now we're doing pretty well on there, and so we're naturally starting to get more attention because I do have Kamala on my tweet alerts. So anytime she posts anything, I normally will post something either to her or I will retweet what she said with my opposition. I'm going to take my jacket off. Sorry, it's like getting hot. The heater's finally coming on here. Yeah, so normally I'll post like my response to what she says. And I'll hold her accountable. Like the other day, she had posted, I forget what it was. And I'm like, oh, you mean like the millions of, or not million, well, probably close to millions. California's a big state, but it's like, you mean like the thousands of people that you locked up for pot? You're going to protect them? Like you expect us to protect our interests, and you want to seek the presidency, but we can't even trust you to do the right thing. And so, of course, like the hatred from her followers is just it's like undeniable, and it's such a a cognitive dissonance, dude. It's just like, how can you possibly like tell a black gay man who doesn't really, I'm not really one to be like, I'm a black gay man, can I get the best table sort of thing. I'm not that kind of person, right? So how are you going to tell a black gay man that they are racist, or that they're, I had someone tell me I'm racist. I'm like, do you see my picture? Like, what? And I've been called a sexist, of course, a misogynist. I've been told that I shouldn't
Me
even
too.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. Well, because you having a vagina does not exempt you from that, apparently. You still are responsible, and it's your fault Hillary lost. I've had that one thrown out. Even though I was a good little soldier, I know a lot of my friends were not, and it's probably one of my greatest. Finally got my zipper undone. It's probably one of my greatest. I guess you could say regrets in life was that I was a good Democratic soldier, and I swallowed it and I voted for Hillary. And I know, I'll admit it, so they don't try to bring receipts on me later. Yes, I voted for Hillary fucking Clinton, and I regret it. I wish that I would have had the courage to vote for Jill Stein. But I bought into the lies, right? I bought into the, hey, look, if we don't do this, Donald Trump's the worst person ever. No. Like, I bought into it. And then, I mean, it goes into what you were saying earlier about doing the research, right? We have to gently encourage these people. It's the same thing with MMT. I don't know how many people, since I've learned about MMT, so 1 year, I'm like, this makes so much sense. And this like answers all of the questions I always had as to why we never do things for poor people. But whenever we want to bomb a country, oh, we'll give you 20 warships right now, brand new off the line. It's going to cost you $7 trillion, no big deal. But we can never do things that need to be done in our country. And so even with that, I've had people say, what are you going to do? Tax everyone into, and I'm like, taxes don't fund government spending. Have a nice day. And I'm like, hashtag word MMT. But I think it's when we encounter those people, it's that gentle encouragement of, hey, look, you're an adult. You've already seems like you made your decision. If you want to go do the research, here's a link. Go do the research. And if you don't, then I'm going to talk to a Republican. And funnily enough, like I've had a lot more Republicans listen to things that I've had to say than Democrats. We have this idea that they're deplorable, and that was probably the worst mistake Hillary Clinton ever made. So by saying that about them, because people can change, they can. We just have to be willing to teach them to do so. So.
Absolutely, and they definitely have to be open to doing so, which is difficult. And the social media can be a really nasty place. I mean, I was nervous. I'm going to be totally real with you guys, as I always am. I was very apprehensive as a blonde-haired, green-eyed white girl to be like, yeah, on MLK Jr. Day, let's talk about incarcerating black or brown people. And I was like, but you know what? It has to be said. Somebody has to say it. And I don't see any other independent media willing to discuss these things. And like, we can't be afraid to be uncomfortable. We can't. Like, we have to understand how to talk to everyone. And I feel like as progressives, it's our duty to share information when we know it. And I know too much about Kamala to not say it.
And I do
So
want to, I want to commend you, Joy, because you absolutely could have just like put down the mic and been like, screw you guys, I'm going home, sort of thing. And you didn't. And I mean, like, you didn't. You could have said, I mean, y'all have to go check the threads, because some of those threads, I was like, y'all are wild and out right now. Like, you guys are attacking this woman who has a platform, a huge voice, who is on your side and is literally saying, just like Bernie did remember when the Black Lives Matter girls came on stage and he stood to the side and let them talk, right? Well, it's that same concept of giving the voice to the voiceless. And it's like, and y'all are going to spit in her face? Nah, not on my watch, dude. Y'all are not going to come for, because I've been following you for a year now. I've been watching your shows. You're always fair. You always are trying to get to the truth. And that's what we progressives should be about, is the truth above all else. If it turns out that a conservative proposal is the best choice for everybody and it makes the most sense, then I'm going to vote for that proposal. If there's not a one that's progressive, that's more in line with what I want to do. If it's the best choice and we can get the consensus, then I'll do that. But I think you're right. We have lost the ability to kind of reason with each other. We've lost the ability to say, "Hey, what did you mean by that?" Right? Such a simple thing to ask. And I'll tell you another quick. I have lots of stories, by the way. But I recently had, I run a nonprofit in addition to being a teacher. And one of our executive officers, she's no longer with us, but one of our executive officers, I had wrote an email to her, and I was basically assigning a project, I guess you could say, for her to work on. She read this email, and there was one line that she took exception with. And that line was, "I know that this project is going to be a challenge, but I have full faith in your ability to execute this challenge." Now, this woman is a doctor. She has a doctorate, right? So when she read this, she took it as me saying, "I know that you're stupid, but like, I am going to give you this because at least you can do this," sort of thing. And so her response was to fire off an email to me, basically talking down to me like I'm a child. I'm the CEO, not a child, right? You are technically, yes, we are equals, right? We have the same voting privileges and everything, but I am your boss, really, technically. And so to get that email back from her, was kind of like a slap in my face, because I was like, well, wait a minute. What is she saying? Why is she saying this? And I read this email, sent it to 20 people. All 20 of them were like, dude, I have no idea where that came from. And so when I finally asked her about it and she told me that that was her response, I was like, well, what I meant was, I know that you're involved in like 8 different organizations and that we are not your priority because we're a brand new nonprofit. So we're only a year, we just had our 1-year anniversary. So we're a brand new nonprofit. She's in some very established nonprofit groups like NAACP, different stuff. And so I'm like, what I meant was, I know you're really busy with the other 8 things that you're doing. And like, I know it's going to be a challenge for you to meet this in the time that we need it, but I have no doubt that you'd be able to do it because you're brilliant. And so just if she would have just stopped, my point in telling you that is, if she would have just stopped and said, "Hey, John Michael, I just read your email. I just wanted to ask you this line right here. What did you mean by that?" And I could have told her, "I think you're brilliant. I think that I know that you're busy. I know that you have a lot of stuff going on, but I know you're going to be able to do it because you're brilliant." And she could have saved us a lot of heartache, because what it eventually has led to is other executive officers taking her sides. We had to let people go, and by force, not by choice. We had to remove people because of one person not being able, and a doctor not being able to say, "Hey, what did you mean by that? Can I get more information? Can you explain more to me?" And that will be the death of our society if we cannot get people to change. And it's the media's fault, right? They post these trigger happy, headlines all day on both channels, going back and forth, and no one stops to say, well, what's the real story here? And kudos to you, kudos to Stephen Grumbine, kudos to everyone in the independent media, Nico House, Nico House, Tim Black, everyone in the independent media who's working hard to make sure that they are gut checking all of us on both sides, because we've been conditioned that the teams are teams and we got to play for our team no matter what, blue no matter who, right? No, it should be America no matter who. What's best for everyone no matter who. So anyway, I ramble, Joy. You can be like, You need to stop
No,
talking. You
right
need to
on.
tell
I
me.
mean, people are feeling you in the comments and
Okay, go.
everything. Like,
Okay, go.
right on. So the other thing is when like, okay, Sandra Bland happened and all that, say her name. I didn't hear her say it. I did hear Bernie say it. I didn't
Hmm.
hear her say it. I did hear Bernie say Black Lives Matter. I didn't hear her say
Hmm.
it. And not that this is just about comparison, but it comes down to the fact that every time critique Kamala, you're a Bernie bro. So if they're gonna do that, then yeah, like I will compare if that's the case. But my other, concern is that she Kamala voted against body cams. What
Dude, yes. I mean, there's so much that Kamala has done and has not done, right? So, for instance, I mean, you mentioned the not supporting Black Lives Matters. The teachers union in LA, the second largest teachers union in the country, is currently on strike. And she waited until it cleared the focus groups, per usual, and posted a picture of her support on Friday when no one would see it.
Yeah,
Didn't even wear a red shirt. She had a corner of like a red rose in the corner hidden by her jacket. It's like,
yeah,
Kamala, do you really think we're that stupid? This is not 2012. You're not Barack Obama. I know they tried to tell you you were back then, but you're not Barack Obama. We're not fooled by your hope and change and your no, we're not fooled by that. We want what Bernie's selling. And anyone who's selling that, we'll take all of them, right? And so from my perspective, it's so interesting because she posted this picture and of course we had ours ready to go. I had my outfit laid out ready to go on Sunday night for Monday. And I made sure that I took pictures with my teachers because I substitute teach, and so I took pictures with my friends. I talked to my friends that are teachers about the strike that's going on. I asked them what their opinion was, sort of thing. And so you will never see Kamala Harris be an advocate on that level for anything because she's too afraid of what if she doesn't become president. And now there's a psychological aspect to it because she knows, I'm sure she knows that we're all comparing her to Hillary 2.0. Like she knows that. Like you're just Hillary 2.0. You're like the beta version, right? They got a couple of the bugs out, but they still haven't learned the main fucking lesson, right? Is that we don't want what the corporatists want us to buy, and instead of truly embracing a progressive agenda, even if she took things that she could work on and say, hey, look, I really like that part of the progressive agenda. I'm going to really push that part. She won't even do that.
sure.
She's so worried about being president and winning people over that are never going to vote for her on the color of her skin alone, or on the fact that she's a woman, or on the fact that she's from California. She's so concerned with their votes that and this is true of the Democratic Party for decades now. They are perfectly willing to sacrifice a progressive vote if it means that they will get a Republican one. And that is the complete
Yep.
wrong mindset to have because we're the base. The momentum's on our side, the energy's on our side. And as far as the body cam thing, I think it's so interesting because I'm actually working on a bill. We've been working on a bill for a year now. I like to call it, so this is tentative name, and of course we're working on more of the specifics and trying to really nail down. But when I ran for Congress, I did ride-alongs with the police departments, and my friends, of course, my friends on the BLM side were like, why the f would you do that? Like, what kind of shit is that? And I'm like, look, if I'm gonna understand what it is that they go through, I'm gonna have to do a ride-along with them because we can't assume anything. And if there's that option, I'm going to take that option. And so I did. I think out of all of the candidates that ran, out of all 6 or 7 of us, I was the only one who did. I think a single ride along, let alone multiple. I tried to do one with every department in my district. And so what I saw from that was that the police officers want body cams because they feel like, hey, look, this clears me. If I didn't do anything wrong,
Sure.
this is my get out of jail ticket, pun intended, right?
Mhm.
And that's they want those. They want that insurance measure. The problem is they can't afford it. Well, guess what? We know what MMT is, and we can't afford it. And so, we're looking at lots of different stuff as far as ARCJA goes. So the Alderman Ramirez Criminal Justice Reform Act, because they all have acronyms, right? So ARCJA. But we're looking at Citizens Advisory Panel. If there's an unarmed civilian that is killed by a police officer, there needs to be an independent investigation conducted with the resources, and they need to be made available to a citizen, not a member of the police department. We're looking at, you know, lots of different things, moving to community style policing. I only took one class of criminology in college, but I learned a lot in that class about the psychology that goes into police officers. And it actually is fascinating because Kamala fits this, but most people think that Black officers are going to be more lenient with Black suspects, and or even white suspects. Like they're going to be more lenient because of perhaps they grew up in an area where they interacted with police or their family member interacted with police, and they're actually much worse. Black officers are actually proven to be much worse and much tougher. And so doesn't that kind of explain Kamala's cruelty? I mean, in a way, to me, it's perfectly clear. That's science. That's an established criminology fact. But as far as, you know, there's so much that she could be leading on with just that area alone. If she were to say Black Lives Matter, if she were to say, hey, I'm going to partner up with a Republican and I'm going to see what can we get through the Senate floor tomorrow. If we were to vote on something, what can we get done right now? Body cams, there's not anybody, officer, I don't think, in this country that will tell you they do not want to wear a body cam. Do they think they're kind of a hassle sometimes? Yeah, because they have to make sure they don't obscure the view, and they need to make sure that they, you know, have it wired up correctly. But at the end of the day, if that gets them out of jail and they don't, you know, get sued or worse, then I'm sure that they would prefer to wear a body cam. Wouldn't we all like to have body cams on our jobs so we could be like, that wasn't my fault, I told her to do it, right? So
So there's a spreadsheet from a bunch, some of my allies and I put together. We actually did one for each candidate. We've been planning this shit for a couple months where we're like, we call it the arsenal. And we have like all these different like receipts from everyone's records and stuff. And when you share records, it's attacking kids, remember. So this is something interesting. In 2012, Kamala refused to prosecute an Oakland police officer who shot and killed an unarmed man, Alan Bluford, who was running away. She arrested the protesters that were demanding to charge the officer.
Yes, yes. Yeah, I mean, she doesn't have the best history of standing up for her First Amendment rights. I mean, she's made that very clear that she does not have a good record when it comes to people expressing their opinions. You know, she was locking up truant children's parents.
Yes.
And she was pushing to do more with it. And everybody on both sides of the aisle was like, dude, this is terrible. But it goes back to her empathy problem. Kamala Harris has an empathy problem. She doesn't understand what it's like for most Americans. She's from San Francisco. I mean, she grew up in a wealthy family. She's lived in San Francisco her whole life. She doesn't know what it's like to have to, I mean, I'll give Hillary credit. At least Hillary might have forgotten what the streets were like, but she grew up in Arkansas. She at one point, you know, knew what it was like for the average American. She forgot, but she knew at one point. Kamala has never known that. She's never known that. She's grown up in San Francisco her whole life. She had a career in city government. There's, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me at all because she has a history of continued support for the oppression of the First Amendment. I mean, and it worries me as far as her presidential ambitions go because, I mean, there's been people that have had their accounts suspended and I'm like, look, I don't like some of the stuff that person says, but like a threat to the freedom of speech is a threat to us all. When you're arresting protesters for protesting a decision that you made, that means you don't know how to talk to your constituents. And then as far as the truancy thing, people, and I think I made this point as well, why are you locking people up and spending thousands of dollars that California did not have at that time in the budget? We did not have it. We have a surplus now. At the time, we did not have, you know, a budget for increased prisoners. And she was advocating locking more people up. I'm like, I bet you if you got like a counselor for like each school district, you would save yourself a lot of money because you wouldn't have to feed the counselor, you wouldn't have to house them, you wouldn't have to worry about beds becoming available, medical care, if something, you know, et cetera, et cetera. But it's that empathy is not there with her, that ability to reason and say, hey, okay, so I grew up rich, but you know, maybe poor people need like someone to talk to. Maybe they need resources. Maybe they need, you know, the kids just need a counselor and they can't afford it because they don't have Medicare for all. I mean, but there's just not that thought process with her. And it's, and we see it again with the Martin Luther King Day thing. Who told her that was a good idea? Who told you that, Kamala? Like that no one in your inner circle should have been advocating that you do that today. They should have kindly told you, wait until the following day. That's the respectful thing to do. But she doesn't care. So.
Because honestly, and I'm going to be frank here, the white people are all over it. That's why. I'm going to keep it. I'm just being honest. The white people are the ones that are like, oh my God, she's such a hero. And you know what? Also, it's usually white people who attack me when I give receipts. It's usually neolib McResistance girls with pussy hats who are like,
oh my God,
you're sexist, like about everything.
And a dancing lady emoji with the little 2 champagne glasses in their profile. Like, I know her. Oh. That's so funny.
This is exactly what you were talking about. Harris pushed for a bill, K through 12, that charged parents with a misdemeanor and fined them $2,000 a year or excuse me, $2,000 or a year in jail if their child missed 10% of attendance in school.
And
10%.
you figure for those, for context, you figure 10%, that's like, gosh, less than 20 days. I mean, you figure if a child has a serious illness or, you know, some families go to Christmas break early and because they go to Mexico or they go to South America. So they'll take their kid out for that week. I mean, those days rack up. Kids get sick. Kids have, you know, other things, doctor's appointments, those add up. And some school districts track by the period or block of time. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong. I don't have the receipt for this one. This is just a rumor I heard, but I heard she wanted to like make it the charge like child endangerment or something like that. Like something pretty serious that would raise like rose red flags. And people were like, you can't do that. They can't control their kid. You know, their kid's going to be a kid and make mistakes. So, yeah. I mostly, by the way, get hate from Black gay men on Twitter. I had one the other day. He went off about me, talking about how I need to, he sexually harassed me, number one. So I'm like, wait, so I can say these things to Kamala or am I not even allowed to think about her because I'd be sexually harassing her? Like, what is the standard now, right? So basically he sexually harassed me, told me that I needed to, you know, it was just disgusting. It was like, he attacked me on my looks. He called me Shrek. And I'm like, okay, like I don't think I'm like the cutest person, but like I am not ugly, okay? So excuse me. And it was just, you know, he executed all of the standard plays that they have always accused us of doing. And so it's very interesting to see that projection because he went for my looks. He didn't go for my brains. He didn't go for my policy proposals. When I told him that I was a nonprofit CEO and that I had more important things to do with my time, so I was going to mute him, his response was something along the lines of like, oh, you ain't no nonprofit CEO. And I'm like, bitch, sorry, it's just that. I'm like, girl, I literally have the receipts. Do you want to see the receipts? Or are we going to just go back and forth on what your feelings are? Because I have the receipts.
Yeah.
I literally have receipts with the IRS, with California state government. But, you know, sure, I'm not a nonprofit CEO. And Hillary won the popular vote. And everything's great. You know what I mean? There's that disconnect, that cognitive dissonance. And they're willing to buy into it while simultaneously saying the Trumpers are you know, delusional. I'm like, no, the Trumpers are mad as hell because of people like you, because of fuckers like you guys, because you guys told them they were deplorable. You don't tell someone that they're deplorable. You can say, I don't agree with your idea. I think your idea is deplorable. But telling someone that they're deplorable, that to me, that burned the bridge. And that's why they became the way they are. That Hillary did that. She did that to herself and to all of us because she shouldn't have said that. And she should have said, and she doubled down. Remember, they asked her, do you want to take that comment back? And she was like, no, what I said was what I said. And I said what I said. And look at what happened. People went literally to go vote because they wanted to prove to her, you think I'm deplorable? Well, I'm going to make sure that you remember me. And she will. Mm-hmm. She will. We all will now. We're all paying for it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a proud basement dweller. Here's another interesting one. Kamala backed a district attorney who falsified a confession and hid lab results. In California, prosecutor falsifies transcript of confession. That's an article. And I can post all of these receipts in the comments as well.
Yes.
but these are all documented cases. And like if you go on Twitter and you type in hashtag never Kamala, you'll see that it is not just us. There are a lot of people who are onto her, and like I said, a lot of them are in California.
Right.
They've witnessed this for a long time. They've seen this. So not just on people of color and the damage he's done there, but what about, like, okay, so people talk about money in politics, and my theory, well, my facts is pretty much, if you don't take money out of politics, nothing is really gonna change. So what did she do? She meets with Wall Street last week, and literally meets with Wall Street. The papers reported on it and everything. She never denies it. Now today she comes out and says, I won't be taking any PAC money. Yeah, bitch, because you already got a couple million last week. That's why. So
and
this
she has a war chest left over from her Senate campaign too. She's got like 15 million left over from 2016 as well. So yeah.
So it's like what? And then people are like, oh my God, she's not taking PAC money. Yeah, because she already has enough to last through her entire campaign. Like, use your brain. She doesn't need big donations now. She has enough. So it's just, I mean, people are falling for this shit left and right. And another thing is, I went to her webpage because I'm like, oh, I gotta see her platform. This is gonna be awesome. Oh, guess what, guys? You can check it out. There is no platform on her website.
Right.
Literally, no platform. There are no issues listed. You know what there is? There's a place you can donate, and there's a place where you can buy all kinds of merch. That's what there is. And a picture of
swag, Cam swag.
Swag.
Oh my God.
So yeah, like literally no platform. What does she stand for? I don't know. Does she want healthcare?
Wall Street hasn't really communicated their full list of demands yet. So the platform will come when they let us know, when they let her know what they really want.
Right.
We'll get the platform then, probably, hopefully, maybe.
Right. Right now, she's having focus groups with millennials to tell her what she should put on her platform. So she and she actually has a past with this. Let me see. She actually 65% of her campaign funding has come from large donors. That was last time. 65%. Yeah, I don't think that's too great. So, and something else that she's very known for, which I saw in the comments, Harris Mnuchin 2020.
Yes.
So
yes.
Here's the thing that blows my mind. So everybody's like, I hate Trump. I hate Trump. Well, if that's the case, shouldn't you kind of hate his cronies? Because Kamala got Mnuchin off the hook. She literally got him off the hook and then took big money from him for it. She's the only gem he's ever given money to.
It's not even about the $2,000 that he gave her, though. That's, he got, like you said, it's big money behind that. If you think that Stephen Mnuchin only donated a couple grand to Kamala Harris, you're not paying attention, as my friend Ty would say. If you think that he didn't go and tell all of his buddies to cut her a check, because remember in 2000, and I lived in Texas in 2016, but at the time I followed this race because, again, I think Kamala Harris is the only African American, and that's disputable, right? Because she's not really African American. She's Jamaican American and Indian American, but I digress. She is the only Black woman, if I'm not mistaken, still serving in the Senate at this point in time. I might be forgetting someone, so no one kill me in the comments if I forgot someone. But it was a big deal for our people to see that return to having an African American woman in the chamber, in the Senate chamber. As we know, African American women, the Democrats treat them like shit almost every time, and then they come back around during campaign. Look at what happened with Doug Jones in Alabama, or Doug Moore, or whatever his name was. I don't even pay attention to him because his first day when he voted, I was like, done. But he campaigned and won his campaign on the backs of Black women, strong Black women who went out and canvassed for him, who supported him, and he turned around and literally didn't even stab him in the back. He just stabbed him right in the face. The first day, and that's kind of what we've seen with Kamala as well. There's a lot of, I think, a lot of Black people in California that are not having her. That they have family that were locked up because of her. And I think the New York Times, I want to say, is the one who did a fabulous article on it, and thank God, other mainstream sources are picking this story up, but they're basically all carrying the byline of Kamala Harris was not a progressive prosecutor, because that's what they're trying to frame her as. Oh, that's what cleared the focus group. But what if we say she's a progressive, so she'll appeal to them, but we also say she's a prosecutor so we can get some Republicans? Because remember, they would rather have a Republican vote for them than a true progressive, a solid progressive, or even an independent. I was ejected from a Democratic event for being an independent, and although I supported many of their candidates that were there that day, I had not supported the one that they really wanted me to support. And so I got kicked out of the event, and they all stood there and watched me get kicked out. There needs to be a fundamental shift in the thinking of the Democratic Party. For those who are still Democrats, I know you're an independent, but from my perspective, they're dead. They didn't learn from 2016. We're seeing them repeat the same mistakes already. When are we going to just go ahead and accept that the Democrats are dead and stop giving them your money, stop pushing their candidates, demand that your candidates run independent if they want your support? We have to do that, because they will literally drag us to the bottom of the ocean, trying to keep us in their plantation, I call it, because really that is what it is. I've been told by so many different of my constituents and my voters that have said, how could you as a gay Black man not be a Democrat? They've done everything for you. And I'm like, well, that's interesting, because in 26 states I can be fired for being gay. In 23 I can be evicted from housing if my landlord finds out and doesn't like it. Oh, that's funny, because the Democrats had a supermajority in, what was it? Oh gosh, when Obama was president, right? They could have done anything they wanted. They could have had the political courage to do anything that they wanted. The Republicans would have had to sit there and cry like a little child in the corner, not getting their way. The Democrats could have done anything and nobody would have stopped them. Maybe SCOTUS. But they didn't, because they're not paid to win. They're paid to lose. I mean, that's what, silly or Peter Douche, I should say, says. They're not paid to win. They're paid to lose. They're paid to give us half measures, and they're paid to provide us with Kamala Harris's. I'm sure they would love to have a Kamala Harris in every race all over the country. Someone that's easily manipulated, doesn't have a platform, clearly is about their own trajectory in life and their political career. And so, again, that's why part of why I decided to run against her. I'm like, someone has to stop her. Like, someone needs to stop this woman, because she'll run for president again in 2022 or 24. I mean, if she doesn't win, she's going to run again. She's going to pull Hillary. This is her trial round, I think. Because she already knows that she's not as popular as the other ones, and there's a chance to change that, but she doesn't have the personality to do that. She's bland. She doesn't have that Bernie drive, that speech, that passion. Kamala doesn't have any of that. And so, that's why I decided to run against her. I was like, she's going to lose, and then she's going to come back to California, and I'm going to be here waiting for her, because I have the speeches, I have the passion, I have the drive, and I have policies to back them up. And if she thinks that how dare you attack a Black woman card is going to work with a lot of people, it's not going to work that long. People are waking up to that reality, that's the entire reason she is where she's at. And it's a sad fact that we put her there, is I guess what I'm trying to say. Sorry, Joy, I can talk. I can just, I go on my tribes. Thank you.
No, that's okay. At the end of the day, does identity politics supersede doing harm to people of color? If people are voting for you as a person of color, does that identity politics supersede the harm you've done to people of color?
No, absolutely not. For those of you who don't know, we've never had an LGBT person of color in the Senate ever. If I were to be elected, I would be we've never even had one in the House. And if I were to be elected, I would, be the first, right? We would be the first. That is not what we're building our campaign on. We are not going to build our campaign around the fact that we would be the only, to me, that would be nonsensical. First of all, because I don't want anyone to vote for me for those reasons. Now, do I think that me being a person of color has shaped my life experience? Yeah, I remember being very young in California when the O.J. Simpson trial happened. I think it was like 94. I was probably 5 or 6, somewhere around there. And I remember my dad was adamant that O.J. Simpson was a murderer, and my uncle Mel, who is black, and my dad was white, right? So my uncle Mel, who's black, was adamant that he was innocent. And I remember seeing even that divide, even at that age. I remember asking my dad, why don't you look like me? If I'm your son, why do I not look like you? And I look like Uncle Mel. And my dad, I'll never forget the heartbroken look that he had on his face. Do those experiences shape my life? Yeah, my dad always taught me that I was going to have to be I think he used to say 4 times better, right? Because we have a saying in the black community, you're gonna have to be twice as good when you're black. Well, if you're gay, you're gonna have to be 4 times as good. And I get a lot of condescension, and I try to take that and turn that into positivity. And unfortunately, the Democrats have decided that condescension that they feel that they're getting from people pointing out facts, that they're going to take it and turn it into name calling. That's really all that they can do, and it's a shame. So your question was, should your identity supersede? No. Should it inform your politics? Yeah. Absolutely. One of the first things I'm going to be pushing for is putting ENDA, the Employment Non-Discrimination Act, into federal law. I'm going to be working with Lindsey Graham. Hey, Sister Lindsey. We know about you, Lindsey. I'm just kidding. I'm going to be working with Lindsey Graham. I'm going to work with, any Republican because we're going to need their votes. There's got to be some
Sure.
Republicans that will come on board to support it if they know that they can get support elsewhere for other things. Am I saying that I would vote for a wall? No. Am I saying that I would vote for, to fund ICE? No. I think ICE needs to be defunded. That's just a small example, but there's room for negotiation at the table with Donald Trump. I do believe that. Where it's at, I don't know. Some people have said Medicare for all, given the funding for the wall, put it on a Medicare for all bill. I personally think that's a good idea. But, I guess to the original point, Kamala Harris is where is her identity, right? I've never really heard her talk about her past. I've never heard her tell like a funny story. Like I've just told you like 20 stories in the time we've been together, and I'll probably tell you 20 more if you'll let me before we get off of this street. But those don't come natural to her because she's calculating. She's always calculating, what is this going to cost me, sort of thing. A genuine person who really truly cares and who is informed by their experiences is not going to care what it costs them, because they're going to know in their heart that's the right thing to do. And so I'm not sure where her intentions are or how her identity informs her, because she's had an easy life for the most part. And that's not to demean her, but she's gotten pretty much everything she's ever wanted this whole time. And so it's hard for me to understand where her roots are with our community, if that makes sense. So.
Absolutely. Do you guys have? I see a lot of statements that Lindsey just clutched his pearls.
I do declare I have the papers. Oh.
Let me see. Okay, so here's I digress a little, but let's just for the sake of it. Mm-hmm. Okay. Now I know you support my beau, Bernard.
Yes.
You are a white Bernie bro.
I know.
No.
Can we go back and like my whole life over then? I'd really like that white privilege card. I'm sure it could come in handy. I'm just kidding. Oh.
So as a man of color, why is it that you would support Bernie over Kamala?
So when in 2008 I supported Hillary because I really I believe strongly in women being given the chance to lead. Now, mind you, I think 19 or 20. So this was before, people were suiciding themselves, at least before we all knew about it. And there were always rumors. There were always rumors about them, but there was never anything really concrete until Seth Rich, I think, was where everyone said, no, nah, that's a step too far, sort of thing. And so I supported Hillary over Obama, and my dad, of course, was upset. He was like, my dad was a white guy, and he told me, how could you vote against the first black man to run for president? And I told him, Hillary just seems like she's a better fit. I would like Obama to be president one day, but I think Hillary, it's her turn, sort of thing, right? And that's funny, but it's her turn, sort of thing. And so when she announced that she was running in 2016, I think I literally posted something like, yes, queen, slay queen, right? This was in 2015, somewhere around there. And then Bernie got in the race. And so I had been following Bernie for, I wouldn't say following him closely, but I definitely knew that he was a self-proclaimed democratic socialist. And I definitely remember looking at the things that he had always supported and advocated for and being like, well, if he's a socialist, then I'm a socialist too. And so that's had always been my line of thought. And so when people would say, oh, I'm very liberal, I'd be like, oh, I'm basically a communist. Not really, but I mean, definitely I see the value of democratic socialism. I am a registered DSA member, so I see the value that those ideas are bringing to the conversation. And so for me, when Bernie said he was entering, I was like, sorry, Hill, love you, girl, but not as much as I love him. Because, it's the things that he spoke to. It's the way that it's even simple things, the way that he says we, not me. That's one of the things that they taught us when I was a trainer at JP Morgan Chase was don't say I, say we, because it includes people. It makes them feel that they are a part of the decision-making process, that their opinion and their feedback matters. And I think someone did a good video of it, and they put her next to, or Bernie next to Hillary, and it was my, I, and then Bernie was we, us, they, us, all that sort of language. Even just that is huge, because it says to me that his character is truly invested in doing what is best for everyone. And not, I mean, this man's been doing this for over 30 years, man. My mind is still blown at that video of him going back 35 or 40 years or whatever it is, of him saying the same thing over and over again. You won't find a video of Kamala Harris doing that over 5 years since she became AG in California. You won't find a video of her saying the same thing consistently for 5 years, let alone 30. No, that man right there, he's the one that I'm all in on Bernie. If he doesn't run though, I guess we'll have to figure it out, right?
Run, Bernie, run!
Yes, run, Bernie.
Hurry up! I'm impatient.
Yes.
Damn it!
Come on. Oh, I was just going to ask you, what do you think about Tulsi?
I think that, how do I say this without sounding like a hater? I think that Bernard has been fighting longer than she's been alive.
Oh.
Let's put it that way.
Boom.
Doesn't mean I won't vote for her if he doesn't join or what have you.
Right.
I mean, I met her. We had a great conversation. But he deserves my vote. He earned my vote. He had it stolen from his last time. So yeah. He's my pick. Burn and turn 2020. Come on, Miss Nina. Let's go.
Come on. Yes. Yes. You better say it. Yes. Yes, I love me some. I really want to meet her one day. I'm waiting for her to come close by.
I met her 3 times. She's fire. I told her husband. I told her husband, look, I'm a heathen, but your wife takes my ass to church. And
yeah,
he cracked
up. She'd be going into that sermon flow with her politics. I'm like, okay, make people feel guilty for not wanting to help poor people. That's what Jesus would do. You go, girl. Yes.
Yeah, she has me on my feet yes. Where's the choir?
Yes, right. I love her. She's a tour de force. I would say that for sure. And I mean, hopefully he would choose her. I mean, does she have the name recognition? No, but she doesn't need it because it's like what I was saying about Kamala. That's going to be Kamala's biggest thing, I think, is that she's going to underestimate her field. Now, when Feinstein ran this last year, she had 20 people on the ballot against her. I don't think there's going to be nearly as many, and that's why we started our campaign so early. Was because we wanted to really. We've already established like our credentials at this point of being like he's not a plant, he's not a fake progressive, he's a real progressive, you know, sort of thing, which is good. And so we wanted to start kind of solidifying that support now because the mistake that I think that I shouldn't say mistake because I definitely encourage everyone to run. But I think what we progressives have learned here in California was, whoa, there was like 7 or 8 progressives. Perhaps we should have considered solidifying behind someone ahead of time. Not to deprive anyone of their vote or their ability to run, but the Democrats, they're going to do it to us anyway. So shouldn't we put our best candidate forward? And so, shout out to Gail McLaughlin, who was a candidate for lieutenant governor. Shout out to
I
Lauren
had her 3
Steiner.
times. That's my girl.
How have you met her? And I live in California. I'm so mad right now. I'm gonna go cry after this. Lauren Steiner too. Lauren Steiner, her and I have had disagreements in the past, but I will never say I don't admire her ability to ask good questions. I mean, Lauren will get you a question if she has one, and it's gonna make you think, and it's gonna make you be held accountable. And so, as far as our race goes, I don't anticipate there will be nearly as many people in the race, but who knows? That Feinstein race had like 30. I think a lot of people are afraid to go back to your original point. They're afraid of challenging the only Black woman in the United States Senate. And I spoke with David Hildebrand, who was the candidate I supported last time, and I told him she's not going to be able to say those things about me. I'm probably going to be one of the only ones she's not going to be able to say those things about because I'm going to be like Aunt Kamala.
Well, you're sexist though. She's a woman.
Well, I think a lot of our supporters have turned it around though. A lot of our supporters have turned it around on them because they've been basically saying, well, by that logic, you're a homophobe. I mean, like, come on, dude, you can't just throw these names out there without knowing what they even mean or how to apply them properly. Speaking out against a woman does not make you a sexist. The way you speak out against a woman is what makes you a sexist or misogynist. Like you said, pointing to someone's past actions, tangible past actions that they held as a result of being elected to a public office, that's not sexism. That's the same thing you would do. In fact, I would argue it's the opposite of sexism. It's treating the woman the same way that you would treat the man, right?
Exactly.
And that's what we should all be pushing for. But the logic is not there. The logic is not there. And I get it. There's a lot of groups like myself. I said earlier that I've never had someone in the Senate or the House that looks like me. Does that mean that I'm going to line up behind the first gay Black man that decides he's going to run for office and be like, yes, queen? No, I'm going to read his platform. I'm going to see what he's about, and then if he's in line with my own thinking, I'll support him. So it goes back to your original point. No, identity should not supersede politics, because if it did, then Bernie would lose again. And we have to convince people to put aside their desire to see a woman or a Black woman or whatever the case, for the good of the country. He is the best candidate by far. He has the best policies by far. And that's what we need. So.
And I've decided, since identity politics is so huge, I'm just going to say, hey, I want the first Jewish man. Deal with that.
Deal with it.
Yeah. He's a mensch.
I love his explanation of his religion though. If you ever get a chance, I'm sure you've seen it because you watch like everything of his. And by the way, I love how you call him Bernard. It really gives me the tickles every time I read something that Bernard sent me this email, and I imagine it being like a love letter from him to you.
Dearest Bernard.
Dearest Bernard. But there's the video of him explaining his faith, and he is asked about is he Jewish? How does he feel about that? And I think his response was that his religion is love, right? That's what his answer was. It was my religion is doing what is right for your fellow man. And really what's so hilarious is that, I'm a practicing Christian, and I've gotten a lot of questions about how my faith is going to play into my governing style and what, and I used to say, well, I believe in a separation between church and state. And I do. I wouldn't make a law based on any part of the Bible, but the concept that Jesus gave us, the ones who were really paying attention, is that we should love each other. So I think it's hilarious that Bernie's not a Christian. He's a Jewish man, a non-practicing Jew, but he got Jesus's message, and we have people running around saying that they love Jesus all day, but they're trying to do terrible things to people. And so we always
got invited to speak at the Vatican. So I mean,
Speaking of the Vatican, did you see the receipts of Kamala Harris move to not prosecute some of the churches here in California?
Really?
Yes, yes. I just saw that one earlier and I meant to read it before we came on. Yes, that's in fact I'm gonna read it when we get off of here. Apparently there are cases where she declined or recommended to the prosecutor to decline prosecution, child abuse cases here in California. I had no idea. I just saw it earlier.
Can you message me
Yeah.
the links? Oh, I just got goosebumps because that.
Yes.
Uh,
Well,
uh,
because there are already whispers of Kamala Harris being involved. I'm not a pizza gator by any means or anything like that. Do I think that that child trafficking is a way and child sex slave trafficking is a way bigger problem than we admit? Yeah. I mean, the sheriffs that I did ride-alongs with told me I've seen things that you would never be able to sleep again at night if you had seen some of the things that I've seen. And some of the things that people do to children. Do I think it's a bigger problem than we care to admit? Or that we're psychologically ready to face. Yeah. So the fact that she would be flippant with, what are apparently confirmed cases. Again, I haven't read it yet, so I need to read it. That was just the headline. But the fact that she would be complicit in furthering that is not a surprise to me. Catholics tend to be a pretty politically motivated group, and she probably doesn't want to make any of them mad by calling out or by, I don't know, doing her job as Attorney General and making the correct
right.
recommendation. But again, it's all about Kamala's trajectory. It's all calculation to her sitting in the Oval Office. And I don't know about you, but I will never vote for that woman. Whether for senator, whether for the Oval Office, never will I ever cast my vote for her. And it's because of that lack of political courage, the ability to say, I don't care if this costs me an election. I'm going to do what's right. So
Absolutely. What is your final thought on all of this? Be it about your upcoming election or how people should respond when they're trying to provide receipts about Kamala. What's your closing thought for the people watching?
So, I mean, first of all, I want to thank you again for doing this, Joy, for having me on. I'm like, can cross it off my bucket list. I hope that you'll have me back when I can put on like an actual like dress shirt, because we weren't expecting to go on video either. But I was like, whatever, I'm sick. I don't even care. I'm like a sick, sweaty mess. I keep coughing. It'll be fine, right? I guess my final thought number one would be like take the time to listen to each other. Like take the time to listen, ask clarifying questions. We have been trained to jump to immediately we know the answer. And we teach our kids that. Do you know how many kids I have to tell on a daily basis? Put your hand up when you want to answer a question. We're trained in schools to raise our hand and to respond, right? But there's a really good quote, and it's when you're answering a question, and I'm not going to say this exactly right, but we respond to respond instead of responding to understand, right? We've lost again that ability to say, "Hey, what do you mean by that?" And in fact, sarcasm, although I love sarcasm, and I know you do too, it really does damage the conversation, because when someone feels that you're being sarcastic with them, then they're going to probably move to nuclear mode a lot quicker. And so I think your example that you did earlier, when you asked the person, someone had said something about me, and you were asked the person, no, serious question. Is that really what you think? I just want to know. And you said serious question. I think that that's a good way to clarify it. I think also asking, what are you basing this information on? Because if you don't ask
Right.
that question, you're left to assume that who's the bad guy that they're basing their information on? Donald Trump. It could be that they have an article that you haven't seen. In fact, one of my friends, who's a dear friend of mine from Minnesota, he's a avid Tea Party Republican. I'm an avid Democratic Socialist Bernie supporter, and the other day he was like, I asked him. Basically, he was saying something about how healthcare is so expensive and insurance sucks, and I'm like, if you think healthcare is expensive and insurance sucks, have I got a deal for you, right? And so I said, jokingly, I said, well, Isaac, I guess that means you're in agreement with Senator Sanders' plan to pass Medicare for all, then, right? And of course, he said no, and he actually pointed me to now. nobody, get upset here, but he actually pointed me to Ben Carson's plan because he used to work for Ben's campaign. And so I haven't taken a look at it yet, but I'm curious to know what's in there because Isaac's one of the smartest men that I know, or people that I know, I should say. I want to know what's in there that makes him say that's the best plan, because there could be something in there that we could use to make Senator Sanders' plan even better.
Sure.
There's always that dialogue that needs to be had, and so I mean, I guess that's my final thought. Don't be a Kamala and respond because you think that's what people want you to say. Respond, get an understanding, and then respond with what you feel. We're not meant to be people. We're meant to be people pleasers, but not at the expense of selling any semblance of us as human beings and our critical thinking skills. We need to retain those things and still work hard to be amicable towards each other. I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Right on.
I'm about to pass out as soon as I get off the phone. I'm just kidding.
You guys, you definitely want to check out the comments. There's so much love in these comments.
Oh, good. This will make me so happy.
My viewers are freaking awesome. I love them. Like, I'm not even kidding you. Like, people think I'm like this strong, savage girl, and I am politically, but like sometimes I have my moments where like you guys may see it after it's been deleted and not know it's there, but sometimes it's like, F you, blah, 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 and all this. And like, I see that, so it's not always easy to do this show. So you guys kick ass for keeping me going. Wednesday night, I have 2 people from the organization Open Primaries. And we're going to discuss what it would be like if we had open primaries, what that would mean for elections, and also what steps we can do to make sure that happens. And then Friday, I'm going to have, if you're on Twitter, her name is Esha Legal, ESHA.
Yes.
Oh my God. I am going to fangirl. Oh my God.
She's hilarious too. She's like so funny.
She is so smart. Yeah. I am so intimidated, but she's like brilliant, and she's a lawyer. And when it comes to history and, anything, even other countries, this woman will rock your world. Yeah. She is. I should just like give her the mic and be like, okay, do your thing. Like she's ready.
She's actually helped us craft a couple of arguments or responses to things that people have said to us. Just like that, man. It's like I got to sit down for a minute and she fires them off. Nothing.
She's like, she has like all receipts at her disposal. She'll be like, you like Obama? Boom. You like Kamala? Boom. You like Hillary? Boom. And she just like drops stuff. Like she's a machine.
You need to get her on the Arsenal squad is what you need to do, because she's got an arsenal. She's got like filing cabinets with everything, with all of their stuff on there. Because she's like, anytime you drop a name, she's got exactly what to do to tear that apart. It's a beautiful thing to watch.
Oh my God. She needs to give me lessons. Yeah. Well, thank you so much, John-Michael. I love you. I'm so proud of you for taking on this fight. And thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I hope to see you again soon. Hopefully you'll have me back. And yeah, it's going to be a long process. We're like I said, we're taking it kind of slow. We started, 2 years before the traditional candidates looking at starting. And so, I mean, we have nowhere to go but up. And so I hope that y'all will follow us on Facebook, follow me on Twitter. You'll follow us and share our stuff, because every bit helps. We went from, I think, 200 followers on Twitter to like almost 1,000 in this last month, from people like you sharing our stuff and saying, look, this guy's running against Kamala. You stop talking about how much you hate Kamala, start talking about how much you love this guy, right? Sort of thing. And so we do appreciate it. Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. And thanks again, guys, for watching. I'll see you back at 9 p.m. Eastern on Wednesday. Thank you so much. Much love, everyone.